It's sexy. It's fun.
Whoa.
Twists, turns.
Oh.
It had a theater full of curmudgeon-y Writers Guild writers clapping and applauding.
that is praise.
Right, so
That's hard to do.
Good-ass movie.
Okay.
This movie brought the sex back into sexy, and I really like that it is a rom-com that remembers that after a good rom comes good com.
Hey, yo.
Okay.
Just thought of that. I hope it played.
Welcome back to the break room. Did you watch The Hitman on Netflix? They paid $20 million for it. Check it out. Why not?
Good.
We're talking Hitman today. Hit that graphic.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Nice.
That-
Overrated.
Look at that
I
neon.
don't know.
Graphics.
That's right. This is the break room movie review. This time for Hitman, starring Glen Powell and Audrey
Arjona.
Arjona. Thank you. I messed that up. I was going to.
She's the lead.
I'm Brandon Barrick. Joining me today. Did you know? Hey. Do you have someone you like to get taken care of? You know what I mean? Taken care of. I sure do. It's John Costa.
Oh, God! Brandon!
Wait, are you the one I want taken care of, or the person I know who can take care of someone?
I can do both. My family, this is not a joke,
Uh-oh.
is in the Italian mafia.
Oh,
Let's
no.
go.
All right.
That's
Take that
good.
out.
Public about it.
Shouldn't have said
Frankly,
that.
in my experience,
There's a
the mob
cop.
loves.
Burbank is full of police officers. I might
it's
get
not a
arrested.
public venue, is it?
No, it's so niche.
I don't know. I'm not involved.
Like
Witness
10 people
protection.
online.
Witness
Sorry.
This
protection.
quaint
Sorry.
little million
My
subscriber
literal
peripheral
godfather.
channel.
And he's normally a guy doing stand-up, but right now he's laying down 6 feet under. It's Eric Owusu.
Well, I gotta be dead on a Friday. Hi, Internet.
I didn't write these, Eric.
Yeah, who wrote these intros?
I don't know.
I didn't do it this time.
Someone's old.
Glen Powell wrote him.
He's that busy.
Glenn, I thought we was cool.
Come on, man.
And our final panelist, I'd kill him just because his movie snack is so weird. It's Coy Jandreau.
I stand by it, man.
What is
I
your-
like artichokes in movies, man.
Yeah,
I like
I'm
I'm a big artichoke.
Every time.
I eat cabbage every day.
Dude, it's a
I
great
don't
source of vitamin
understand
A. It's really high in fiber. It also, aesthetically, it's like popcorn where it takes a while. Like, you have to use your hands.
I appreciate
This is
that.
the gangster right here.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you actually utilize,
wants to
artichokes in the
savor.
movies, you guys.
I'm an
A little bit of
artichoke
balsamic.
I'm an artichoke lover. I just keep that private. Keep that to myself.
Just saying, it's the ultimate aesthetic. It's a quality version of popcorn.
Okay, great.
Same mouthfeel, but
Definitely not the same mouthfeel.
doesn't
folks,
pop as much as it.
We're not here to adjudicate artichokes today. We're here to talk about Hitman. Before we get into spoilers and whatnot, does everyone want to give a quick spoiler-free reaction? If you're watching this right now, you haven't watched Hitman, you can't decide if I should just turn on my TV and go to Netflix and watch it. Give them a reason why they should or shouldn't, with no spoilers.
Yeah, it's great. It's sexy. It's fun.
Whoa.
Twists, turns.
Oh.
It had a theater full of curmudgeon-y Writers Guild writers clapping and applauding.
that is praise.
Right, so
That's hard to do.
good-ass movie.
Okay.
Good movie, enjoyed it.
I do feel like we're entering, hopefully, a new era of movies feeling sexy again. We've had a very puritanical, very let's make sure these lovers are more like coworkers vibe for a while. This movie brought the sex back into sexy, and I really like that it is a rom-com that remembers that after a good rom comes good com.
Hey, yo.
Okay.
Just thought of that. I hope it played.
Come on, Coy, you got that in my eye.
Some people put
come
breadcrumbs in
everywhere.
their artichoke. Some people dip it in a little
Okay,
bit
no,
of
no.
mayonnaise.
Remember, if you
As a
drink
movie.
enough pineapple juice,
What do you think about the movie, John?
it's got to be equal opportunity.
I am normally a big theater advocate. I just couldn't make it out to the theater this time. Watched it on Netflix. I thought it was a really enjoyable experience. I, of course, would have liked to have seen it in a theater.
Netflix has not made this easy to see in a movie theater.
No, and you know, f them for that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Are we far
No.
enough into the video? You might have to
Nah.
apologize. You know, but
where movies
but
live.
it's worth watching. I would definitely throw it on tonight if
Sure.
you haven't seen it.
Great.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. It was a fun time. I think maybe Glen Powell's best role. It probably his meatiest role.
hot
Definitely
take.
his medias.
He hasn't had too much to do in movies, and this one is
This
mostly
is Top
him.
You know, people just
Yeah.
asking him to look fucking
Well,
good.
even
and he's good at that.
I rewatched Top Gun last night, and he's barely in that movie.
But when he is, he's got
Barely in that
the
movie.
it's
Yeah,
the
he
movie
shines.
star
Shoots.
presence.
Yeah.
He shines. Hangman shines in that movie.
I would argue that's why he's a movie star, not just an actor, because this showed he's both. And I think
Sure.
up until this point, it was like, oh, that guy's interesting on screen, movie star.
Yeah.
He's done things that showed he was a good actor, but this is the combination, I think.
Right, I great. Okay, we got that out of the way. Some ringing endorsements across the panel for this movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. We hope you've seen it. If you're still watching, because we're going to get into spoilers. Okay, let's get into the spoilers.
Yeah.
As we do here on the Breakroom Movie Review, we rate the movie in parts. With each part getting a grade between 1 to 5. You can do a half point if you want. You can do a 1.5 if you're a hater. On our off-screen team, composed of mini Bryans, we'll be doing the math to get to the sum at the end. Okay. Today we're going to be grading the script, which is the story and the writing, the acting, the directing, the visuals, and the sound and score. Those are our 5 categories. Okay. As a reminder, Hitman was written by Glen Powell and Richard Linklater. It's based on a magazine article from Texas Monthly by Skip Hollingsworth, the late great Skip Hollingsworth. This is Powell's first writing credit, though he's also developing a Captain Planet movie.
It's very good.
Oh, wow.
What?
Script's real good.
Oh,
Coy
look at
apparently knows
that.
about
Another
it.
spoiler.
Real good. I really need to
Is it Twisters 3?
It's there's a big producer attached to it that hopefully they announce soon because I think that'll get it made faster. That cares a lot about the environment.
Okay. Well, we'll hang on for that Captain Planet movie, but for now, let's talk about Hitman.
Gus Van Sant.
Okay, I would like a very realistic
Captain
Captain Planet.
Still played by Don Cheadle.
Gritty.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the script and the writing for this movie. Anyone want to kick us off? What they thought about it?
Yeah, I'll go first.
WJ.
Yeah, Mr. WJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you.
Je ne sais quoi.
My respect is being paid today. Yes, yes, I love it. Thank you, gentlemen. Yes, yes. No, this movie was a lot of fun. I'll give the writing a 4 and not a 5. I'll give pretty much everything else a 5. As fun as it was.
Wow.
We spoiling everything
Spoilers
today.
for your own review of the film.
The writing was fun, but at a few times it was a little heavy-handed. Like I was reading a lot about other people's opinions of the movie just to see if I wasn't an outlier and how much I liked it. And some people were saying it was a little heavy-handed in the scenes where he's giving his lectures as a professor.
Okay.
Where like every time we see him in the classroom, the stuff he's talking
It
about
was
directly.
very intro to psych.
Yeah,
for sure.
it was the freshman class
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. And it was like, this is what's happening in the movie thus far, but is in my class in this lecture. But I loved the little quips from Retta and like the evil cop guy. Don't know his name, but he was
Jasper?
good.
Was his name
Jasper in the movie, yeah, good and smarmy.
Yeah.
But yeah, give the writing a 4.
I will say they reserved the normal names for Glen Powell's character.
Aliases.
But I feel like Retta also kind of had a weirder name.
It was
and
like
then
Coughlin or
Jasper.
something like that?
Yeah, maybe it was just a last name that she was going by or something like that. I agree. I thought that the writing was top notch for this film, and it needed to be good because there wasn't a ton of action in this movie, which I don't know. Maybe I don't know why I was expecting it. I got this movie and Fall Guy like weirdly meshed in my brain. I have not seen Fall Guy yet, and so I
It's
think
got
like
action.
I think some of that was in my brain for this one. But the only moment that kind of bumped me was when he was like taking the streetcar and like Retta turned the volume down instead of hanging up, and they were talking about how thirsty they were for Glen Powell, and I was like, oh, I have no problem with them having that conversation, but that felt like in a scene that was very improvised and a movie that was not. Felt like their banter was just like, oh, we're just gonna do some improvise and then we'll pull the best bits out. I think like if the whole movie had a little bit more improv energy, probably would have worked better, but for me, it kind of like sucked me out of the movie for a second. I was like, oh, these are just two comedians like playing, and they put the scene in the movie.
I think Glenn was like, yeah, let them talk me up in this scene. I'm like, let him know.
Yeah.
Let him know.
I mean,
I don't know if he needs that.
even the Gary Johnson persona is a beautiful man.
Yeah,
a
no,
very gorgeous.
oh, yeah.
In
The
shape
amount they
person.
tried to make Glen Powell unattractive.
It's tough.
Right.
Hard to
And
do.
like even
It's
with
not-
like the small beady eyes and the weird like
the
still-
jorts
The jorts were
Yeah.
problematic, but
Even when you put your biceps behind your head,
Yeah,
and you're
in the
like, you're
jorts.
like, okay, well, this guy. The whole time I'm
Easy
thinking, when
hangman.
is Gary Johnson going to the gym every day? Like, just show him
One
working
scene.
out.
It's right before his pie and feeding his cat.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
get-
He's a
yeah,
lot-
His diet did also
of
not
pie.
equate to that.
Right.
What was in
He-
that pie?
Pies are full of artichokes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. And protein in the crust.
Yeah, they're chicken breast pie.
Yeah.
yes.
All pie's a good pie.
I did enjoy the writing of the movie, like a lot of fun dialogue. I mean, the sequence of the cops are listening while he's trying to show her.
So
stuff on the
good.
That
phone.
was the
Very
scene
good.
that got the.
And I think a scene like that in another movie, something would go wrong in that scene, but it works. They get out.
And you still
of
get
it.
the tension without.
Yeah, and you get all the tension, and it's really well done. I don't know if you guys watched the trailer for this movie. We all hate trailers. They give away a lot. Blah blah blah.
I love trailers. They make me.
I mean, that's the thing.
my livelihood.
I'm saying that as someone.
It's my job.
Yeah.
Please
and
keep making trailers.
Well, I watch all the trailers, but then anytime, if my partner wants to watch a movie, I'm like, you're not allowed to watch the trailer because I think it will spoil a good part of this
often
movie.
it does.
In the trailer for this movie, it is revealed that, her husband dies at some point. So I spent a lot of this movie waiting for that moment to happen. And then when I would talk to other people, I realized they didn't remember that from the trailer.
Yes,
And so,
yeah.
because I was like, oh man, if I was watching this movie and I didn't know the husband dies, like that would be great. And it is great. And it's a good little twist. Because I think the movie takes a little while to get going.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate the beginning of the movie sets the stakes really well, and that it's like hitmen don't really exist, and here's how I'm able to do this job through a complicated bit of exposition. They're like, this is answering all the questions of legality and like why are we doing this and how I got into this position in entrapment.
Yeah.
So I appreciate all that.
From a screenwriting perspective, right? I think you're right. The movie takes a little while to get going. You could say the turn from Act 1 into Act 2 is when he just has to say yes to being a hitman for the first time.
Right.
But that happens
30 minutes
so early.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, right.
Like
It's
maybe like
10 minutes in,
Yeah,
and then
that's
30
10
minutes
minutes
in.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it feels like,
takes
I
a
guess
while.
that's the turn, and then the rest of the movie is second act, but it also just feels like he's kind of getting on his feet, and we're doing montage stuff, and that all kind of feels first acty until maybe, I mean, like the husband gets shot, and then we're in the third act.
Yeah,
So
it, like, jumps
it was like
really
a
fast.
weird, it was structurally kind of weird, but oftentimes I think movies struggle with their second acts, so I kind of liked what this one
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 4.5 for me because I thought this was a movie that the action was in the writing. I think that it wasn't visual action, it
Yes.
wasn't directing action. It was the writing was action packed. Like that scene, I loved that you had an entire action sequence that was about a phone and a wire.
Right.
And I think that's rare. And I also think that the movie is written so well that the 30-minute moment I was thinking of wasn't that. It was the when he meets Audrey. And I think that there's this really beautiful thing where you're living in this and you're like, oh, this is going to be a movie about impersonating people. And then he meets her and you're like, this is a romance movie. And then there's another turn where it's like, oh, is she crazy?
Yeah.
And not in a way that belittles crazy. A lot of times when there's like a crazy male lead or female lead, all of a sudden it validates their character. Instead, it's like, oh, I don't know what she's gonna do, and that's more like dating. Like you don't know what they're gonna like pull out, and you're like, we've been together for 6 months, and you have a crazy uncle in prison. Like there's so many twists and turns with how it goes into the third act that I didn't know he died. So I was like, oh, it's that movie now. Right. So I think that's all a testament to the writing being so action driven without action on screen. 4.5 for me.
I think you make a really good point that, she is set up in that first interaction for you to say, oh, I understand exactly why you're in this position. They never say that she gets abused, but it's like heavily implied, so we can assume that that's true. You sit there and you feel a lot of empathy for this person, blah, blah, blah. But then you're right. When you find out that she's the one who kills her husband, it's like, oh yeah, you were capable of doing that because you wanted to kill him in the first
have him
place.
killed, yeah.
And so,
And you were so happy to see that gun.
It kind of validates, right? Kind of validates that. We're going to talk about the directing in a second here, but I think you're right. I think it's cool that you referred to that as an action scene, the scene with the phone.
100%.
It's shot and it's blocked like an action scene. The
Right.
And it's a
characters are
phone.
always moving around that apartment. It's always really energetic. Even though it's just a conversation with a phone, they could have been seated that whole time.
This could have been a play.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting about the writing is this writing is so good. I'd love to see this on stage. But I love that it was directed like an action movie, but it was still a Linklater directed film that feels like the Before trilogy. Like it's still got moments of like, let's have long-winded prose delivered as if it was action, because that's those three movies. Like the Before trilogy is shot like a poem, but edited like action. And I think this does that, but in an action film.
That was a word right
The
there.
bar.
Shot like a poem. That is like action. God damn.
Linklater! I love my Linklater!
There's a lot of
Linklater and John
smart.
Conroy.
He inspires me.
There's a lot of smart writing, and even Jasper is a really well done character in that, like, he is a bad dude, and he's a cop was caught beating up teenagers and stuff. But he's also the best cop there because he figures this out.
He actually does the detective work.
He immediately figures it out and stuffs it out, and he's almost not even like taking advantage of the situation up front. At first, he's kind of like, hey, Gary, I'm like a bad cop too. And I abuse the system, and I see you're abusing the system, and I'm fine with that. And we're going to cover it up together.
Right.
Don't worry, I got you, buddy.
It doesn't-
Then he finds out there's money involved.
He's like,
He's
how to, fellow cop?
Right.
Like,
he's like, now I'm actually going to make money on this situation. And I think the choice the movie has at the end where, like, they kill him, and you as an audience member have to be like, okay, I'm okay with this. And then they just go on and live, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm okay with this. Is this okay?
Which I liked. I
Is this
personally was
murder?
like-
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll get into one of my favorite things later, but like, it is an interesting choice it makes at the end, and I do appreciate the like hand-holdy psychology throughout the movie.
I liked it
in a
personally
way
because it's not common in a rom-com.
Yeah,
I'm just upset that the dude could never fucking nail down a classroom. He's in like 6 different classrooms and
teacher.
outside.
Community college, you never
But
know.
I like that it's kind of helping the audience see what Linklater's trying to say,
Yeah.
where he's like, you know, society used to just kill people because they were bad, and now we're trying to be good, a better society. But is it making our society better? It is.
Because the
We
other way
shouldn't
to
kill
do that
anyone.
is like sit across at a diner, sit in a
Right.
train, like the Before
Yeah.
trilogy. Like the other way to do that is how do we express the psychology through dialogue? I like the device of the teacher, even though it feels a bit heavy-handed at times.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I still think the juice is worth the squeeze to have it be like, hey, these are some ideas that
Mm-hmm.
you might get a spring of an idea off of.
And I haven't read the article, but Gary Johnson, who this is based on, was actually a teacher.
So cool.
And was like, seems like a cool dude based on like the epilogue of the movie and stuff like that. And I appreciate they're trying to get those concepts in there.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that a lot. I love the conversation he has with his ex-wife. That
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
it gives you a framing of the movie too. Like, can a person change if they will themselves to change?
And then
It
the
was
last
like a
part
very
of the film is like
Yeah.
talking about, hey, go forth, choose who you are.
Yeah.
That message at the end I thought was so beautiful, especially in an age of internet where you are kind of your brand.
Mm-hmm.
Because I, like how much time I spend as at Coy Jandreau is probably
Right.
2 to 3 times more than I spend as Coy Jandreau. So if I'm acting a certain way digitally, at what point does that line become who I am actually? And who do I choose to act as? So if I'm on Twitter, fuck that guy. But if I'm kind on TikTok.
fuck
So
that
it's
guy.
interesting about like what you put out there.
Do I know you?
That's the question.
Do we know
Am I the
ourselves?
hitman?
I don't know.
But do we know any of each
ourselves?
other? And,
Yeah.
and how are we different in 5 years?
Yeah.
Brandon,
Yeah.
we haven't given our
Oh,
numbers.
I will give it. I'm really torn because it did feel like there was a lot of darkness I wanted more of. I don't know. I'll give it a 4. I'll give it a 4.
I'll give it a 4 too. I would have liked some action. I don't know.
Some actual shooting.
He wasn't a hitman.
I know, but there's still police officers and there's still
Yeah.
murders. When he pulls the gun on the ex-husband, I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, like I
Ties
wanted,
off screen.
I wanted a little more about her character, and we don't really learn it because I always thought there was gonna be a drop of like when he finds out like she's not really divorced and then she actually killed the dude, and it was like I feel like there was more to learn about her. And I don't, you have Linklater and Powell writing the script, so maybe they're more focused on like the male perspectives because that's what they understand better and they get that better. I would like to learn more about her, but yeah, I really like the writing in it.
Yeah.
It was good.
Also, fuck the police. So I was
yes,
happy at the
that's
end
very-
for
very
that.
true.
Yeah,
Let's go with
it's
Leather
very anti-police, which I think is cool. And a lot of those situations were entrapment. Like I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
This is a
That's another long
jurisdictional.
conversation.
when
Any
you're allowed to
lawyers
do
in the
different
chat?
states.
Right.
Well, states different, jurisdictions
true.
are different. I don't know.
What was it, Louisiana?
Yeah, it was Louisiana.
yeah.
New Orleans,
Oh,
technically, I guess.
it's the Wild West out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know about that state, but it seems like a good place to set it.
Chat, shut the fuck up. Okay?
happened?
We're getting there. They're complaining that we're 30 minutes in and we've
Okay.
only talked
We
about
always-
the writing.
They know how these
Bastard.
go.
It's a Linklater movie. The writing is the movie.
We spend
burn.
too much time on all this other shit, and we have to hustle through the back half of the
that's
show.
how we do it. That's how we do it.
It's Breakroom classic. We start late, and it's always my fault.
We're training you.
But that's what happens.
Can a show change? Can a show be different if it forces
If it sets
itself?
itself out to be
Maybe on Monday, but not
Not-
fucking
not
today.
this energy day.
Today.
Not on National Donut Day.
Let's
no,
talk-
I'm kidding, chat. We love you. I'm giving you a hard time like I would
tired.
give anyone a hard time.
tired.
We love
Okay.
He's got the kingpin on his shirt. He's channeling.
What kind of monster? Who's the monster? Let's talk about the acting in the film. We have Glen Powell, of course, as Gary Johnson, college professor, tech guy turned hitman for fake, hitman for real. We have Adria Arjona as Maddie Masters, Gary's love interest and problematic person. We have Austin Emilio as Jasper, an undercover cop. We have Retta as Claudette, a police officer Gary works for. We have Sanjay Rao as Phil, a police officer Gary also works with. They don't think he works for. Well, I guess he works for him. Evan Holtzman as Ray Masters, Maddie's ex-husband, and Molly Bernard as Alicia, Gary's ex-wife. How do we think about everyone's performance in this film? I will say classic Linklater in that once you get past the first big names, everyone is characters, actors you probably have not
I
seen
mean,
before.
all of the
Which is great.
mugshots of people with their
Yeah.
fucking crazy hair and like
yeah.
their facial expressions, you wouldn't want him to cast it
These
full
feel like
of movie stars, right?
local Louisiana castings,
Yeah.
all the way down to that one dude with the accent.
100%. I
Which
love
is
that
great.
guy. That guy was
Just great,
amazing.
just great. Yeah,
I hope that was
mean,
the casting call. Like,
Yeah.
thickest Louisiana accent.
Yeah, but not a caricature. Like that is
That
probably
does-
how
I
that
did,
dude talks.
and when they were doing that scene specifically, I thought that the like comedy beat was gonna be like we couldn't understand his confession, so we had to throw it out or something like that.
I mean, I love like those moments
But
too.
then he says, "Kill the slut," and I'm like, "Okay, fuck
they
you,
got that
dude.
part. They got
Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, I love those moments too of like, in the courtroom when like the trailer woman, trash kind of woman, gets back together with her husband and he gives
And they
him
beat
like
him
a
up,
dirty
yeah,
look.
yeah.
It's like this woman
Tried
was
to
trying
have
to
you
have you
killed.
killed. Was paying, and like that happens in real life where like people have gotten back together
Yeah.
with people who've been busted
just
trying to
passion.
hire a hitman.
Just passion.
That
That's
was a
love,
piece
baby.
of drama. Sorry to go back to writing. That was a piece of drama I was surprised they didn't deliver on, which is like, oh, this person tried to put me away.
I'm gonna get revenge.
I'm gonna fucking kill you.
I was
I
waiting
thought
for
that
that.
first guy would
Yeah.
come back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The like kind
Yeah,
of
the really long eye contact.
yeah.
So sorry.
No. I was just going to say I like that they didn't because I think we were all waiting for it, and the movie
Yeah.
did that. Like,
didn't
it's
need-
not what
it
you
didn't
think.
need it.
Yeah. So when Glen Powell and Atra were at the ice cream joint after they saw the ex-husband, I thought Jasper was the first guy.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
you
and
guys-
then he came over. I was like,
yeah.
oh yeah, that's the dirty cop. Yeah.
That would have been good too.
Yeah.
I'll start with acting real quick.
Yeah.
I think acting-wise, this is a movie that is necessary to cast like Linklater does. I think if there were recognizable faces, it would have been distracting. I think if you had an association to any of the actors other than our two leads, it might have been like, this feels like a movie. It feels like I'm in a world that feels a little too elevated. He writes pretty elevated. The acting is at times very elevated because of the type of performance that Glen Powell especially is giving, playing these larger-than-life characters. But I think that the strength of the acting came in. These are the manifestations of the version of a hitman that each would get to do. So I think this is that opportunity for Glen Powell to be a movie star by just gravitas, but an actor by way of like playing these ridiculous versions in a grounded way that feels just so simpatico as a scene partner. Like this movie is effectively not just a play, but also like an acting class dream because you've got the two characters have to work alongside each other, and they have to juxtapose the next round, and they have to juxtapose the total world. That way those hitman moments feel surrealistic, but also in tone. So I think the acting had to walk a very thin line. There was a needle that was thread, and then on top of that, you have to make Audrey Ahonia a character who is impossibly likable, but you still feel like, whoa, what did you do? And not judgmental of, whoa, what did you do? Because at the end, if you judged her choices, you wouldn't like how it goes, and you wouldn't trust Glen's decision-making. And I think that, honestly, like the acting in this was a lot harder acting than I think it seemed because of how easy the movie felt.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Glen Powell's doing
He's
a
a
lot.
real movie star.
Yeah.
He really shined in it. I really liked a lot of his choices there, and I just love all the background casting. All the side characters were just so fun, and I did like them.
Yeah. I thought the acting was amazing. I give it a 5 if we're still rating.
We're still rating.
We should, for the end.
And this might be a more directing or story thing, but I think it's funny how like in this movie and in Love Lies Bleeding, which I also really loved, and I loved their romantic chemistry. Couples that catch bodies together stay together.
Passion.
That's
your
the
summer.
thing.
Oh, yeah, 2024.
Plug your Twitter account, Eric.
I will at the end. Like I left that movie like, oh, they gonna be together forever. They got a body. Neither of them can flip on the other or they both go down. This is great. But they acted so well that it felt so natural. It
Yeah.
felt so like conversational. Like we're in this house during this tepid or this tense conversation. All these tense conversations. They spent a lot of time in her house.
And like it never felt
yeah,
like
it never
false.
felt like, oh, we're
Oh,
here
it
again.
felt false to me at one point.
Which point?
I was going to talk about that when we talked about visuals, but when they first go back to her place after the bar, she says she had just gotten a new place and it was perfectly furnished.
Oh,
there was
yeah,
art
yeah,
on the
yeah,
wall.
yeah.
It was picture perfect.
She
and
said
I was
it was
like,
a mess.
how much fucking time did you have to put this place
You're like,
together?
this lady is lying already.
I just had a roommate move out and we have a new person moving in. It's been 7 days. We have nothing set up.
She says something like it's a janky place or something like
it's
that.
gorgeous.
And my wife immediately was like, "This is bullshit."
There's like books set to color palettes. Like it's so
It's 2 floors.
it's stunning.
That's how you know a man wrote it. Two men.
Jesus.
Too better. Like that's a trash house.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I love Jasper too. I think he's a really good job as like not, I wouldn't even call him like a villain, but just an antagonist, right? Like like that's a tough kind of not be like super mustache.
But don't know where he's coming
But
from.
he had the mustache.
Yeah, but he literally has a mustache.
He literally looks like a villain.
Yeah.
Like he was great, and even like the ex-husband or whatever who dies.
Yeah.
Like that guy was like very well cast.
like
It's like
those couple beats between him lashing out and like him thinking about it, like
Yeah.
that was good acting.
Yeah.
it was good, and it was like again, you feel like you get the sense that he's a bad dude and he's controlling of her. But like, does that dude deserve to die? And like, we don't know how controlling he is. We see him just like twice, pretty much. And yeah, he's yelling at a bar, but like, he's with his buddy and he sees his ex-wife, and we don't know what's
divorced.
real. And they're not divorced, and she's with another dude. Like, he would yell, and like, someone
Well,
would
I
yell.
mean, they're very much separated. I
Right.
think that like I don't think she did. I mean,
And like,
I don't
he
know what
goes-
conversations they had.
And I understand that he goes to hire a hitman, just like, but again, he's clearly torn up about it. He's at his end, but she did the same thing. So
Yeah.
it's like, is he worse than her? I don't
Yeah,
know.
probably.
They
But,
probably
I mean,
deserve each other
by the
then,
way
'cause they
that
both wanted to kill each other.
I don't know. By the way the movie sets it up, it seems like he was very, if not physically or sexually abusive, at least was like very emotionally abusive.
Sure.
The pie and stuff. But was that
Yeah.
her manipulating the hitman?
Yes, again,
But she wouldn't need to. 'Cause
we're hearing a lot of it from her side, and like also, I think an easier movie would have had him take
Be a
a swing
monster.
at her.
Right,
Or, like,
right,
You would have
He-
seen.
I mean, he kind of does that, right, in the alleyway. He
I
goes to
kinda
grab
guess
her.
that. Yeah.
Sure, that isn't.
You know,
Yeah, you know what?
agree.
I take it all back. Kill
This
dude.
movie's, I mean, the movie's tone, I don't think was prepared to like show something fucked up like
No,
that.
and I don't
Which
want
I
it
kinda
to.
So
liked
I
enjoying
understand
the
the
movie.
choice. Yeah.
It was a pleasant watch. Even
say-
like Methy Berry Pepper was pleasant, like the villain.
I say all that in like a way that I appreciate the movie is like leaving a lot of it up to the audience and making you
Yes.
decide whether or not you're okay with this. And the more you think about it, start pulling on threads. You're like, well, wait, isn't that kind of fucked up? Also, again, they've had a kid who's 5 years old.
Yeah.
We say 5 years
They
old.
didn't
Very
age.
end.
They haven't worked out the how they met story yet.
Nope.
Come on. That threw me out.
That's
a
my
bit.
suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, because I'd like you've had this question in 5 years at least. of,
After
like-
2 kids, yeah.
You'd be like, yeah, there's 2 kids.
Yeah.
It's
An
easy to just say,
OBGYN.
we met on Tinder.
OBGYN
Baby
would be like,
showers.
how'd you guys meet? And were you at the office like, I don't know how we met. Like, guys, it's also a child. Just lie to him. He doesn't
Yeah.
know.
The grocery store.
Anyways, that threw me out of the movie, but thankfully it was at the end.
Yeah.
My
4.5
score is
for-
a 4.
Yeah.
Nice.
I give the acting a 5. A 5. Yeah, I give it a 5.
Whoa, great.
4.5.
5. Give me 5.
Sloppy. Okay, what's next? Let's talk about the directing. As we mentioned, this movie is directed by Richard Linklater, who's directed a ton of movies. Everything from Slacker all the way to School of Rock. I think that's a good
What a range.
varying range. Recently, movies like Bernie, which a lot of people have compared this movie to, I think, because it was also based on a Texas Monthly article.
Yeah.
That one was set in Texas. This is set in Louisiana, of course. How do we feel as a Linklater joint?
I love Richard Linklater.
Okay.
School of Rock is in my Letterboxd top 4. It's the
Whoa.
movie I've
Great
seen the most in my entire life. It got me into filmmaking. I was a little musician kid, and that movie like showed me how cool it is to like make movies about things that you care about. I think the Before trilogy is a masterpiece. I love some of his other movies. This movie, I didn't feel like had a strong voice from him. I felt halfway through that like this movie maybe would have been more fun if it was like directed by the Coen brothers. I think that this was my weakest part of this film was the directing. No part of it felt like very special in particular or very high craft or it missed a lot of, for me, Richard Linklater's signature stuff. You know, we didn't have a ton of like interesting long takes of dialogue conversations between two people. It was edited in a different style than a lot of his movies. That being said, I think it's very competently directed, but I just didn't feel his touch as much as I would have liked to.
Yeah, it does miss like a little. It doesn't have a ton of like stylized nature to it. Something like Burning, which I just mentioned,
Very stylized.
was very much more stylized. And this did feel like I don't know who directed this movie, right? Because it was just very cleanly, but very expertly directed.
Yes, we've talked about
Yeah.
like great scenes that were really well directed, and I'm not saying this movie was poorly directed. It was just like not a Linklater film from what I would experience a Linklater film, right?
Yeah, I mentioned I loved all like kind of the casting choices for like the side characters. I also love for a movie that is set in New Orleans, shot in New Orleans. At no point did we see Bourbon Street. We didn't
Felt
see
like New Orleans, not
we didn't
like
see
one street.
Yeah, we didn't see like a riverboat going down
Wasn't
the
an acknowledgement
Mississippi.
of Mardi Gras.
Yeah, we didn't see a second line anywhere. Like it was like these are locations you've probably never seen.
Which I
that
liked.
felt like out on the outskirts of New Orleans, which is where the cops would have these stings. They wouldn't have them in like the French Quarter, right?
Right.
So it's like
I have ridden that trolley before, though.
Oh, you have it? Okay.
Yeah, it's a dope trolley.
They didn't get beignets once. Was this even in New Orleans?
Yeah, and like I appreciated that this felt like a movie where like I don't know where they shot in the South somewhere. I don't know where. Beautiful live oaks covered in Spanish moss. Like I loved all that stuff about it. Like it felt different in that way.
Directing wise, I do agree that this didn't feel like it had the fingerprints of Linklater on it. So it's a little lower than my other things because I was excited as a Linklater fan for a Linklater film, but I do think the proficiency of directing is so important for a script like this. If this was directed by a lesser director, it would have not been just lesser, it would have been bad. Like there's no way to direct this halfway. So as much as I would have liked more Linklaterisms, I do think that the competency puts it at about a 4 for me. Linklater generally is like a 5 because it's competent plus very stylistic plus a very immersive. This I think was his studio film. Like this felt, even though it was contained and small, I loved how well lit it was. I love that, especially nowadays where lighting is a lost art, but I love that it's a movie that feels polished, but it doesn't feel shiny. And that's a really tricky line to walk. So I'm going to give it a 4 because I would have selfishly wanted more Linklaterisms. But as a film, it's really masterfully directed. I'm just selfish about him.
Yeah,
I feel that.
that's how I feel.
Just I wanted more as someone that's like, man, the Before trilogy changed my life.
I haven't seen those, but I have seen
Tell
School
me
of
to
Rock.
love.
Yeah, School of Rock was
You gotta
definitely.
come over.
I gotta
Dude,
come
just have
over.
a time.
me over.
Have like a
We'll-
7-hour cry fest.
We'll have etouffees and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I'm gonna give the directing on this movie a 4.5. I thought it was really good. Like he directed the stars, Powell and Audra really well. And I'll go back to that scene with the phone and the double talk. Like if just that scene was a short film or whatever, like we'd give it all the laurels. Right. It was amazing. Like I think he got the best performances and chemistry out of it. Like that was the movie hinged so much on the chemistry between those two leads. So sexy. Also,
It's hard to shoot well and light well.
yeah.
So, like them laid out in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Like,
It was really good.
This is like
So many different-
beautiful.
Every time
Yeah,
they'd
very
catch each
sexy.
other's eyes, the
Yeah,
light
yeah.
would be awesome on their eyes, but also not like they're not in a studio. Like the
Yeah.
lighting sexy is so hard.
Yeah.
Ask
very
Marvel.
They've only done it once. Eternals ground
on the ground.
National Women's Day and Deadpool, I would argue, is the best lighting.
That's right.
Now that we folded over Fox.
That's right. Now it's included in the canon. But yeah, no, I think the
pegging
directing
lighting.
was good. I really do think Linklater did his thing. I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe I'm the other one that ever feels like this, but sometimes you watch a couple on screen and like weirdly in your brain you want to be a part of that relationship, right? I think like maybe not like literally a throuple, but like that's such a relationship that those two people really have a lot of chemistry. They seem to like care about each other a lot. Like that was this movie for me. It had been a while since I was like, I really want that in a relationship. So yeah, I thought that they were directed really well together, and I think their performances were great.
I think it's what he does so well, is like his
I mean,
ability
him
to...
with relationships, fucking crazy.
Jesus. And even the Boyhood movie, like the amount of different relationships over that period of time.
Real lifetime.
I mean,
Yeah.
to go back to School of Rock, just the relationship between Jack Black and Joan Cusack in the one scene in the bar where he's trying to convince her to take the kids on a field trip, and he's just like putting on a little flirtatious energy, putting on Edge of 17. Like, they're not even supposed to be a couple in that movie, but like that flirtatious scene is still fucking great.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
He finds flirtation well.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
Score?
4. Very competently done. Like Coy, I felt like there were some things I would have liked more, but the movie doesn't suffer from poor directing in any way, shape, or form.
No. I would give it a 4 as well.
If I didn't love before, I'd give it a 4.5. I just can't. Like, it's like there's a dedication.
Yeah, it definitely left me wanting a little bit more, but what are you going to do? Real quick, it's time for a quick shout out for our sponsor today, and that sponsor is Mando. So we're going to shout out Mando and their full body deodorant. Is this still in here?
I took some home.
Nice.
Not this one.
Using the product.
Oh, Mando.
That's what I would have liked better.
Yeah. Lume's been popular for a while now, which is why they've made Mando. It's the same clinically proven doctor-developed formula, but in cologne quality scents for men like bourbon leather and pro sports and Mount Fuji and being hitman. Yeah. You heard Zach. Anytime Zach's on the show, he's like a weirdo about this. But he really likes it. He uses it all the time. He forces us to smell his pits. And, I usually fake it, but they don't smell bad.
We line up for it. It's great.
Yeah, we line up for it.
Love those fit days.
Pre-show.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It helps you stay fresh smelling all day. Mando is made with mandelic acid, an alpha hydroxy that blocks the sweat-eating bacteria on your skin from causing odor. Excuse me, I'm going to throw up just a little bit. So you don't even smell in the first place because something
Is it because I smell?
ate your bacteria. You can put Mando anywhere. That's a promise. As a special offer for listeners or watchers, new customers get $5 off a Mando starter pack with code BREAKROOM at shopmando.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit shopmando.com and use code BREAKROOM. Let's talk about the visuals for the movie Hitman.
The cinematographer, Shane F. Kelly. I was diving into his IMDb page before we sat down.
Okay.
Mostly just kind of a Linklater guy, right? Linklater from Austin, Texas. Started his career, Slacker, in Austin. That's a lovely movie if you want to check it out. Seems like Shane Kelly was not the cinematographer for Slacker, but Linklater kind of seems like one of those directors who has their people, and this is one of them. A lot of directors
do that, right? They have like a shorthand for
saves so much time.
Yeah.
Shane shot A Scanner Darkly, which is that crazy
rotoscope
film.
Love that
Boyhood, and then some of Linklater's more recent flicks like Where Did You Go, Bernadette, Last Flag Flying, things like that. For me, nothing special happened in there. I know Coy said he liked how well lit it was. I thought that it could have been more stylized, but that's not really Linklater's kind of deal. He's not.
I think this is Fall Guy really fucked up your experience.
It's not the fucking. It's not the Godfather where everything falls off to black eventually. He's telling his story. It is a romantic comedy. It is lit like a romantic comedy, and that's fine.
I mean, while I was watching this, I've been thinking there's been a lot of rom-coms this year. I think Fall Guy is like a great rom-com. Now, of course, I was thinking about like Anyone But You, which is another Glen Powell movie, and like that movie to me was very visually boring. I was just like kind of bored. Not as well.
Really wasn't well lit.
And not
Netflix has really affected lighting. Netflix specifically, the framing for TikTok. And the lighting for Netflix, two problems. Like everything gets framed for TikTok now, so you can clip out stuff. If you look at the Wicked trailer, everything is center frame, so they can put it on TikTok. And then the lighting for Netflix, so they can have a lower frame rate and us not notice because we're not paying the $32 for it to be in fucking 4K. It is a problem.
I paid the $42.
No, I do too, because I had to go. Oh no, this isn't a movie. It's a cave painting.
But yeah, there's not like a ton of crazy stylistic to it, certainly. But yeah, it's very well shot. It looked good.
I never had to wonder what was happening on screen.
Yeah, it was not too dark to see.
I hate that that's the bar, but at this point, I think the lighting was pretty great. I think that the way they covered the Hitman moments was dynamic enough that it felt different each Hitman. Like there were little subtle tweaks in framing that added to the character's personality.
Yeah.
I also think that they did a lot of really fun choices with like slight freeze frames, or not like slow-mo, but adjusting frame rate occasionally. And overall, like that scene, that's a short film effectively, that little vignette, that's so well shot. And I feel like the movie needed to be pretty normal rom-com up until that action set piece to have that feel dynamic. So for me, it's kind of like my Linklater directing. I would have liked a little more if it was a different kind of film, and I think selfishly I'm like, Hitman, but it's so above competent. Like it's not just fine, it's good. It's just, I went in Linklater. So I'm going to give it a 4 just because like above average, but I don't have a moment that I can be like the visuals except for the lighting really being good.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because I think something that's happening too. We're having a little bit of cognitive dissonance in this Hitman movie. Is that we keep thinking it's supposed to be like a Hitman movie, like the video game bald head Hitman,
Right.
da da da. Like I think that's kind of playing in our minds. Like why wasn't there more shooting? No one bled to death. No one's head got blown off in a Hitman movie. So that I think that kind of plays into why we're not like, oh, this movie was so great. But despite all that, I think it was done really well in terms of visuals and camera work and how it looked. Like it is a rom-com, so it was shot bright, so everything is visible and can be seen, and it's romantic, it's sexy, but it's also like intriguing. I mean, there were parts with tension that I thought was done really well. Like every time Jasper was like, "Where were you? Why are you still messing with her? Didn't you?" And he's just like lying, or sorry, he's telling the truth, but he's like lying. And those scenes were shot really well and built and held tension really tightly. So I think Linklater, his cinematographer, everybody did their job fantastically for that. And I'm going to give it a 4.5 on that.
It really killed me. I mean, I really enjoyed the end of this movie, the death of Jasper, if you will. Especially, and I'll save it for the next section, but like the fact that you could see him dying in the background while they're kind of like making this decision together.
They start
and, like,
fucking as he takes his final breath.
Yeah, and like it's just like that was really smart, man. And it's like that puts a lot in your head to think about as you're watching this movie. And you're like, yay, they're doing it.
And one of the last things he said was like, "You could never kill somebody," and then he's like, "Well," and then he kills the guy, and then signs the deal. The contract was signed.
Yeah.
Also, that scene was so sexy. To sign the contract, both versions of signing the
Callbacks.
contract,
Yeah.
her and him signing the contract was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would give it a 4.5. The cinematography.
Hell yeah, you are.
Beautiful.
Well, if 3 is fine and competent, that is my score.
Good. That's fair. I think that's really fair.
I just thought there was not enough that was special. The moments that you guys were talking about, I sort of attribute a lot to the editing of the film rather than maybe the cinematography, but
we don't have an editing category.
we don't have an editing category. If
Tough.
we did, I would give it high marks.
2-hour show.
Okay, so that leads us to our final category, the sound and score. There was a sound and score to this movie. The music was by Graham Reynolds. Again, he's done mostly Linklater projects. It seems like he called in his guy. That was the one thing that I noticed the most in this movie was the lack of score. There was not a ton of score in this movie. It was often very quiet. I appreciated that there weren't jams pumping in every
There was
every
not
5 minutes.
70s needle drops.
Or
to make you feel-
70s needle drops, or even like weird 2010s needle drops, which have
Yeah.
become very popular. And I don't know why.
Getting old.
I guess so.
15
But
years
yeah, there would be like moments where like they have not played music at all, like
there was-
diegetically or
Score, nothing, yeah.
nothing. And then when there was score, it wasn't anything like. The Hitman doesn't need a theme by any means, but I'm glad they didn't rely on like a pop song, which I love pop songs, but like I feel like rom-coms are like we'll throw in these 3 pop songs, usually for nostalgia to make
We'll put
people
one in
feel
the
a
credits.
certain
That way you remember
Yeah.
that you're walking out of the theater.
Yeah,
Well,
and I think the most impactful thing in this movie is the sound of that plastic bag.
Oh, yeah.
Crinkling, him dying while they're being sexy at the
Yeah.
end. That fucking blew my mind.
And they crank that sound design, so you're
And
like,
I'm
I
looking-
feel away.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around and like everyone's watching the movie and like because I saw it in a movie theater and they're like having a good time. They're like, oh, they're getting together. And I'm like, this is fucked. What are we doing? Someone help this man.
slowly dying.
Comedy, yeah.
A bad, whatever this guy is, a bad cop. He doesn't deserve to die without a court trial in someone's living room and to be placed in a car and pretend like it was a suicide. Like while he's dying, they're having this conversation. And the fact that you could hear the bag was so good. So good. I would give it, again, it's weird because the whole time I was thinking, man, I'm going to drag this movie on score because what is going on? This is weird, but I would give it a 5 for sound and score.
Had a big finish.
Just for that ending. Because I was like, that's dark. That is some dark stuff to put into people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's like Linklater. It feels like has 2 kind of avenues, right? Like you think of a movie like Boyhood or School of Rock, needle drop heavy because that's like a music film or
Right.
a film that is like very much putting you into specific time periods, and they use music in that film as like almost touch points for the audience to be like, oh, okay, we're listening to Sheryl Crow, so it must be 1997 or whatever. Is that too early for Sheryl Crow? Whatever.
97? No. That's right at the money, baby.
Perfect. Nailed it.
Crow season.
Peak Crow.
So I don't think that this movie, and then you have movies like the Before trilogy or whatever, and those are often silent, and it's a lot of dialogue, and you just sit there with the characters and enjoy that. I think this movie was like a little bit more kinetic than some of those kind of like more, I'm going to just sit there and enjoy this movie. I would have been fine with more of a score, but I don't know if this film needed it.
No.
And like you said, I thought the sound design was really fun. So I'll give it a 4.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm gonna give it a 4 up front. I think that it being a movie that didn't distract itself with all those things is actually a big strength. I think a lot of times rom-coms don't trust their leads or their writing or their directors, and they try to make you feel. I've noticed a lot. I love 80s movies, but I noticed there was this shift from saxophone into like guitar, and I think that both of those, like when they're done over the top, like when you switch from sax to Eric Clapton in Lethal Weapon 3, all of a sudden it's a very different movie, and I love the way it makes me feel, but I'm also like, you're telling me how to feel, and now I'm not feeling, and I'm glad this movie didn't try to do that. I love you, saxophone and Lethal Weapon, but I definitely like that it trusted us.
Yeah,
so,
them making love to Tears in Heaven was really weird.
yeah, it's just
a weird choice.
So I like that it was like a kind of voyeuristic. Like I think if the scene that we both love wasn't voyeuristic, it wouldn't have felt as fun to feel like we were just in the house. And if you added a score to that scene, it would feel like you're watching a movie. So
because the score would have been bubbly there. It would have been like they're in love and they're getting away. Instead, it's like no, there's a man dying.
So I think the strength is the lack thereof, and then the it's always very clear what's happening, and it's very like it's peppy without it. So 4.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I think
here we go.
that's my lowest score.
Yeah.
I somewhat agree with like both of you guys in that I don't know. I could have used a little more like subtle score. Like it didn't have to be like Desperate Housewives doop 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 doop. Like it didn't have to have that throughout, even though it was a rom-com. But like I would have wanted more score, more music.
Right.
Not so much needle drop every whatever, but the montages had fun music under them, and even with the bag, suffocating
sound
start,
of a plastic bag,
a kind of romantic like violin piano kind of crept
To
in
juxtapose it.
while they were talking about the contract.
Yeah.
So like, I wish that had been executed a little better. For me, this movie was as quiet as No Country for Old Men.
It's pretty quiet.
Like it was, and I get it. The writing was great, and the dialogue needed to breathe, and it felt natural. It felt like we were actually in the living room, actually in and out of the van during these sting operations. But like, I wanted more score, so 3.5.
Okay, I just respect them too. Again, for making this movie in New Orleans. No one was a part of any jazz band.
No, they didn't
No
play jazz.
Best Beat, no Big Freedia. What the fuck?
I was waiting for John Legend and Ryan Gosling to show me what jazz is.
Yeah.
Sunglasses.
The nose like Zydeco music, nothing.
No
nothing.
Lil Wayne? How dare they?
No one playing a clarinet, like nothing. Even though they're in New Orleans, I
Right,
couldn't
not
believe
a
it.
single frog leg.
Not a
playing in the
single
distance
frog leg.
quietly through the whole
Yeah,
score.
yeah.
Right. John Baptiste comes in.
I need you to kill someone.
They just roll him through frame.
You want me to kill someone?
We've talked about this movie in depth. Thank you guys so much for watching. We have a final number, and quite honestly, I think it's kind of low for how much we all appreciated this movie.
Fair.
We settled on an 84.
That's good. I think that is good.
That's
I think that's
solid.
good.
That's a good.
On Rotten Tomatoes, it's somewhere in like the 96
Yeah,
range.
it's like
a 98 on
Very,
Rotten Tomatoes.
very well received by critics.
Yeah.
It is a very good movie. We were kind of nitpicky with some of the things we took points
That's
off
what we
for.
do,
We
baby.
all love Linklater
we
too
do.
much.
Yes.
That's what
We want
do.
the best.
If you are already paying for Netflix, I beg you
There's
to watch
no
this
Watch the
reason,
movie.
literally
Please.
not.
It's a good
Please,
movie.
and sit, watch it the whole way through.
Watch
It's
it with your
great.
boo thing. Watch it with your
Yeah.
sneaky link.
Yeah.
Watch it with
Fun,
everybody.
It's sexy, it's
It's
beautiful.
at least 3 watches.
Real quick, who was everyone's favorite hitman? Who was your favorite hitman?
Oh, that's a good question.
I really liked the vaguely old Eastern European, like the guy from like
With
old
the trailer
school.
park lady, the longer
Yeah,
And the scar on
yeah,
his
yeah.
face.
Oh no, actually, I think that was
The cigar?
my second favorite was my favorite was the guy that was with the New Orleans guy because they both were having like an accent
They were
off,
similar.
and they both had this
yeah,
like
yeah.
really kinetic energy of like unhinged but like buyable. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I loved Smarmy Nut Tap one.
Yep, that one's my favorite.
That's my favorite one.
He was on with that full
Broy.
neck tattoo.
Yeah.
Immediately, I was like, if I'm faking being a hitman, would I go to the trouble to make a full neck tattoo? And I thought it looked bad,
Yeah.
but I thought that was the
Because
yeah,
it
I think it was
cut
meant
off
to be.
very
Yeah,
clearly.
exactly. Like, and it was like
It's like you see the
wrinkly.
paper lines.
It was like wrinkly on his neck, and I was like, oh, it looks so bad. I was like, I bet it's supposed to.
That
look
he was
bad.
like in the with a sponge trying to get
Yeah. I was like,
Feeling.
yeah. I was like, don't go that far. My favorite was the American Psycho.
Oh, it was so good.
yeah.
He was doing such a good Christian Bale.
He really was.
Even making like his neck
Tent.
and like doing the mouth
Remind me of
thing. He
In the
basically-
office, he's
motel.
like in the suit.
he comes into the suit with the red tie and slicked back hair, and he's literally doing American Psycho Christian Bale.
I watched this movie an hour and a half ago. I don't remember that.
He's doing an impression of him, and
Which
it's
is funny
so
because that's
good.
Christian Bale's doing an impression of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So it's effectively Glen Powell doing his mentor's role.
It's the idea that like Gary Johnson watches American Psycho. Was like, I'm gonna try that one. That was a lot of fun. That was my favorite Hitman.
Nice.
Okay, well that's it for us today. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel right here on YouTube and give us a follow on Twitch, where sometimes we do these videos live. Eric, Owusu, where can they find you on the internet?
Find me on Twitter with seeing jokes that I'll recycle live on the air.
Sorry,
At
I shouldn't have
Owusu
called
Kid.
you out
It's
like
fine.
that.
It's
Oh, call it out. You can workshop material.
You're
It's
real.
fine.
You're real. You call me
Listen,
out.
Now you know that I follow you on Twitter and I actually read your tweets.
Validation in a new form.
comedians go on late night talk shows and they do their material as like the story.
And then you can find it on Twitter.
Yeah, tune in next time when I'm here, and I'll tell you about the way I stopped a couple terrorists on 9/11.
Oh, okay. You'll have to tune in next time for that one. Coy Jandreau,
Marky
where
Mark
can they
over
find
here.
you?
You can find me on YouTube at Coy Jandreau. I read 50 to 60 comics a week, so you don't have to. I give you my top 9 favorite books of the week, give you synopsis for each, and then I preview every book coming out that week, and I give you the news in the middle, so it's a weekly show I do, and I'm reviewing The Acolyte, and I'm reviewing every major movie release, and I'm doing news stories on that channel. I'm very tired, but I really want to grow my YouTube page. Please follow me.
Yeah, check him out, folks. He's tired. Come on.
I literally was uploading as I was sitting here. I wasn't kidding when Costa started.
Yeah.
I was doing an upload.
He can't keep getting away with it, folks. All right, follow at Breakroom and R on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Twitch, everywhere else. We'll catch you next time. Latest, guys. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.